Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Why Cloud, the Future of Innovation. I am Manuel, and I'll be your host today. And we are very excited to have you here and explore why companies are moving to 3D experience on cloud, how it enhances collaboration, reduces IT cost, and accelerates innovation. Before we begin, a quick reminder, feel free to drop any questions in the Q&A section, and we will address them at the end of the session. Now, I'm very thrilled to introduce our speaker, Michael Davison. Michael is a solution specialist for PLM, marketing and learning with extensive experience supporting Dassault System customers on 3D experience. He has played a key role in developing learning experiences for Enovia, PLM Analytics, and onboarding on the platform. So, Michael, thank you for joining us today, and let's dive in.
All right, thank you very much. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. This is going to be the first of 5 webinars exploring CATIA V5 on the cloud. This first one we've titled Why Move to 3D Experience on the Cloud. So it's going to be a kind of high-level introduction into what the cloud is in relation to 3D experience, some of the common business challenges that we see customers having, as well as some of the benefits that the cloud can provide. And then we'll finish off with just kind of an introduction into some of the verbiage and some of the strategies that you'll see if you start to adopt the cloud for your PLM solutions. And then we'll follow on with future webinars that will dive more into the details of using CATIA V5 and the cloud. So with that, I will get started with just sort of talking about the introduction to the cloud. So we see a major shift happening in product development, where the move to the cloud is happening in many industries, so companies can stay competitive. And PLM isn't really any exception to that. And primarily, we see companies that view the traditional on-premise solutions, they're starting to see some of the limitations of them. It might include costly IT infrastructure, disconnected teams, and in just general slow innovation cycles or iterating on designs, where the cloud is able to start offering more flexibility, higher collaboration between teams, while just staying up to date on some of the latest technology for your PLM solutions without that burden of maintaining and having the IT maintenance side of things. And so 3D experience on the cloud is Dassault Systems offering to help companies modernize and sort of revolutionize their way that they design and engineer, manufacture their products. So it's intended to connect teams, streamline workflows, while helping to reduce some of the operational costs. So this webinar is just gonna, as mentioned, kind of at a high level, explore some of what I just mentioned, why you should move to the cloud, what are some key benefits, and then how us at Vias can help you make that transition as well. So I'll start with some business challenges without the cloud or staying on premise. And so on this slide here, we've got kind of that graphic of the iceberg to illustrate some of the hidden costs, right? So with a traditional on-premise solution, you might see your software licenses as kind of the visible costs, but then underneath that, there might be a lot of hidden costs. This could be related to the hardware itself, maintaining it, or the training related to maintaining the hardware and the configuration of it. So to talk through a few of those points, the first is high IT costs. So managing an on-premise PLM system sometimes requires significant IT resources. So investing in expensive hardware upfront, but then the maintaining of those servers, applying updates, ensuring compliance. Every time that system needs an upgrade, it could potentially be a project in itself that can lead to downtime. There's extra costs with disruptions, maybe unexpected delays with the upgrade, that sort of thing. Data silos and poor collaboration. So we also see many companies struggling sometimes with disconnected teams. So if you have different teams in different locations working on different versions of a product, you might have designers and engineers and suppliers all operating in different environments. And then this sort of leads to that sort of file versioning and managing that, where you have the v2 underscore final type of file management system. And I think we can appreciate that that can lead to miscommunications, delays, and any sort of mistake can propagate into potentially weeks of rework and loss of productivity. Slow product development is the next point on the slide. This one is just recognizing that for many companies, speed to the market is critical as they're developing a product. And sometimes an on-premise solution can actually act as a barrier or slow down that process. If you're spending a bunch of time like managing files, how much time are you really focusing on innovating or iterating on the design, finding improvements to the product, right? So without sort of the real-time collaboration to review and approve, hand off data, iterating on designs, and sort of getting to the point of getting to a product launch can be delayed. Limited scalability is another challenge, where when you've invested in hardware upfront, if the business needs to change directions, it might be too rigid to support that change, or even just scaling as the business grows and you need to include other operations or other departments. Maybe it can't scale as well as it needs to be. Whereas a cloud solution can sometimes offer that flexibility. And then lastly is the security, compliance, and risks. So this is one to keep in mind with an on-premise solution. It may feel like the data is safe, but then you are responsible for the updates, the patches, and having the IT oversight of that system. And so this is where some companies might struggle with keeping up to date with security measures. And then they're vulnerable to potentially security threats. And they might not even realize it if they haven't been keeping up to date with their security measures and protections. So with that, there's just some common challenges that we see. And some companies might not experience all of them. Some might only be a few, or some might experience all of them. But they all generally relate to just increasing costs, making it harder to make decisions, not having as greater visibility into the product. And so companies start to explore cloud solutions and how it could work for them with their PLM systems. And so this is where we get to Dassault Systems offering, where they'll talk about the cloud strategy of Dassault Systems is to provide an optimized portfolio of industry solution experiences. And really what this means is that they have a variety of offerings and packaging of licenses based on other customers in similar industries. So there's sort of a package that can be brought to specifically to your company and your industry for what you need. And they call it a software as a service. So you'll hear, I'll mention it a few times probably in this webinar, and then you might even hear it in future webinars, where 3D experience isn't necessarily always talked about as just a software. It's considered more of a platform and a service, where in addition to the software and the licenses, they're providing updates, the infrastructure, the management, and the data backup and recovery, the cybersecurity. So all this is offered by Dassault Systems as part of the service. So it becomes much more than just a software. It's a whole platform and a service in itself. And then it's also important to note, so Dassault Systems being a large company, with many large customers, they're very motivated to keep their security certifications all up to date. So the cloud offerings and the portfolio has all the mechanisms that follow the latest standards. So that's kind of the basic intro into what the platform is and what 3DEXPERIENCE is. This next slide, we've gathered a few points just to kind of highlight some of the main functionality of 3DEXPERIENCE on the cloud. The first is what you'll hear people say: it's a business and innovation platform that connects people, ideas, data, and solutions. Really, this is sort of building on that idea that it's more than just a software. It's what you might call an ecosystem, right? It's a place where everybody can connect into one environment, share ideas, view the same data, and you're building that environment together. It's a real-time, holistic view of the business, and so this is with the idea that the data is all in the same environment. You can get a full view of operations to better enable your data-driven decisions. So gaining a better insights and understanding of how different teams may align, hand off data, how their processes and projects align, and how they can really collaborate and share ideas together. It acts as a single source of truth. So this is kind of going back to one of the main challenges of data fragmentation or data siloing. The platform is intended to act as that single source of truth. So whether you're a team in engineering, manufacturing, or in management, you're accessing the platform and you're accessing the latest up-to-date information. It's the same data that everybody else is accessing, hopefully reducing any rework or errors of that nature. It empowers teams to transform their ideas into products, services, and experiences. Really what this point means to me is that when you think about sort of getting an idea into the real world, are you allowing your teams to sort of utilize their skill sets and their experience, right? So if there is a highly skilled, highly knowledgeable team of engineers, are they really being allowed to innovate, to review the product design, review the processes, or are they spending a lot of their time on some of those non-value added activities, right? The file management, the admin side of things, right? Or are they it's kind of where being empowered to really utilize their skill set, right? The platform is trying to sort of bring people into a environment where they can share ideas, build on other people's ideas, and utilize their skill sets. Bridging the real and virtual world. So this is where, if you are familiar with the term of the virtual twin, the platform is intended to be that bridge. So enabling businesses to simulate, test, and refine their products virtually before they get to production. And so then they can reduce the amount of physical prototypes that are created. And this can have savings with costs, as well as just sustainability and environmental impacts. If you're reducing those physical prototypes, it's easier and quicker to simulate and refine products in that virtual state. And then finally, this is an important point. It's to support all kinds of businesses, right? So some of these terms being used and some of the buzzwords I'll use of ecosystem and virtual twin, single source of truth, they sometimes sort of give that impression of it's for this large enterprise and it's sort of their digital transformation initiative of where they want to go. But it's important to recognize that even for startups and smaller businesses, they have to consider what does digital transformation mean for them as well, right? And so 3DEXPERIENCE is a platform that's been designed to be built at scale. So it can support a business at every stage, from the initial design of the product all the way through to production and then to delivery and to the marketing and everything to help that smaller companies stay competitive. So those are a few points to sort of highlight some of the functionality of 3D Experience. The next few slides, I'll talk a little bit more about some of the benefits of moving to an on-cloud solution. The first being one of the biggest advantages that you see of moving to 3D Experience on the cloud is this increased collaboration. So the ability to connect teams in real time. So your design, your engineering, and your manufacturing, you're accessing the platform and you're working in that unified environment. So everybody's accessing the same CAD model. You're working from the same tools, and you're not worried about those version mismatching or working from the wrong data and then realizing it later and needing to rework to make corrections in those mistakes. Just reducing those delays and efficiencies. Cost savings and scalability. So this is going back to that idea of some of the hardware investments that might need to be made with an on-premise solution. So moving it to a cloud solution, a lot of those IT investments, the hardware, the maintenance, the upgrades, and the security, a lot of those costs can disappear with the cloud solution. So you don't have the servers, you're not worried about the manual updates. Those things are managed for you with Dassault systems. And then you're on the latest software version. The downtime for upgrades is lessened. And then you'll also be able to scale your resources. So you can start small. And then as you go through product development or your business grows, you can start to scale up those resources with the platform. The next benefit would be that anytime, anywhere type of idea, where it's recognizing that teams have changed, teams have become more distributed, and working remotely and being able to communicate remotely is becoming more and more important, right? So 3D Experience on the cloud provides that ability to access your CAD models, your documents, your project data on demand from different devices. And so you're not necessarily tied to a specific location. You can communicate from remote locations. Also externally, you can invite other people to come collaborate on the environment. So customers and suppliers can be given permissions to access the environment, review designs, and provide feedback while having some access control. So you can control what parts of the IP that they can view and access on the platform. And then the final point on this slide is secure and reliable. So again, talked a few times about the security idea, but when people hear cloud adoption, one of the first concerns is, where is my data? Is it protected? Who's responsible for that? And 3D Experience on the cloud, again, because it's built by Dassault's a big company with lots of big customers, that they have every motivation to keep it enterprise grade security to protect the data. So it has automatic backups, disaster recovery of data with built-in encryptions, access controls that's compliant with the industry standards. And then Dassault System also really wants to make sure that it's available with high performance, so you can work safely without being worried about disruptions. So that's an important one to bring up. And all these benefits sort of together allow companies to take advantage of some of these cloud benefits, collaborate more effectively, and reducing some of the IT risks that are associated with managing something on-premise. And so with that, kind of talking through some of the benefits and the challenges, what is the offer? What's when we say 3D Experience on the cloud, what's the Dassault offer? And come back here to the iceberg graphic, where now we see that we can deliver a more out-of-the-box environment in a simple way to remove some customizations and remove some of the non-value added costs, where everything begins to get centralized in a subscription fee, where now Dassault Systems can take care of the IT management, the maintenance, the hardware, and the infrastructure related to the system. And then there's still some training costs, but it's important to note the training is going to potentially look a lot different. So here it kind of goes back to what I was saying about empowering teams, where if you're not concerned much about the costs related to keeping people up to date on the configuration and maintenance of the IT solutions and infrastructure, instead, they have more time to learn about their processes, about the product itself, about their workflows, and about the tools, so they can be more free to innovate on that, discover improvements with the workflow, iterate on designs, and sort of utilize their skill set instead of sort of being bogged down by the admin side of things. And then the last point on this slide too is just sort of recognizing that it's a sort of pay for what you use idea. So with the subscription fee, you can start small, and we'll speak to this a little bit, where you get just certain packages of content, and then you can build as your business grows. So you're only really paying for what you use. So this brings me to a slide where I have a video here. This is one of the Dassault Systems videos. It's just a quick one with some animations, but it kind of just reinforces some of the points that I was speaking to with some visuals of the platform. So I am going to stop sharing and then try to share this video. And as I play it, if you don't hear the audio, you just let us know maybe in the chat, and we'll see if we can figure it out or send the link.
Innovation, it's more than a buzzword. It's how we create a better future. But even the most breakthrough ideas can get slowed down by internal processes, lack of collaboration, and data integrity issues. It's hard to innovate when it takes too long to bring new products to life. Today's businesses need to get to market faster with higher quality products if they want to stay ahead of the competition. Meet the 3D Experience Platform, an incredible toolbox with all the applications you need to design, simulate, and manufacture, well, anything. Here's James. He's a designer working on a next-gen e-bike. It's a complex project with a lot of parts that all have to seamlessly work together. With the 3D Experience Platform, James can share his design with Sarah, a simulation engineer, and Tom, the project manager. With the 3D Experience Platform, each user gets, based on their role, access to the applications they specifically need to move a project forward. So James can build the model, Sarah can run simulations, and Tom can make sure the project runs smoothly. Even manufacturers can be invited to collaborate on specific parts, protecting intellectual property. Every application on the platform shares the same data and seamlessly integrates with each other, so there's never an issue with compatibility or version control. Sarah can take James's design and simulate how they'll perform in real-world environments. When she's done, the project manager gets a notification of the changes. Project dashboards make understanding complex projects easy, ensuring everyone can follow the project's evolution and access all the data in one place. Tom has some questions about the design. Instead of sending an email, he can make annotations right in the design using the collaboration application. Other team members can easily and quickly respond, make comments, and update the design. It's like working right next to each other, even when the team is far apart. Tom also needs input from Jessie, another engineer who's working on the e-bike's braking system. Jessie's new to the team, so Tom assigns her a role. Collaboration on the 3D Experience Platform is a breeze. With built-in version control, team members can collaborate with a single, consistent source of data throughout the entire design process. Everything is stored in a secured cloud, ensuring that everyone will always be working on the latest version with zero data loss. And whether it's a team of 1, 2, or 100 people, 3D Experience scales and grows with each user's need. Plus, team members can work from any device, from anywhere in the world. Got a team member who needs help? We've got them covered with a dedicated support community of 3D Experience experts. Collaborate more, innovate faster, change the world. That's the 3D Experience platform.
All right. So I will reshare the presentation here. And so I chose to include that video because one, I think it reinforces some of the sort of visually what the platform can be. But it also, if you pay attention to the way they kind of present the scenario of the team member where they have their designer and then there's a simulator and then there's a project manager. And they all kind of have their package of licensing. So it kind of speaks to the idea of you can start with what your team needs. And then as you grow and go through the development of the product, you can start bringing in manufacturing or other disciplines. And so that's what we'll speak to about in the next couple slides here, where, if talk about some of these benefits and then get to the point of, okay, well, like, how do we get started? How do we transition? And what does that look like? And so here on this slide, we've got a few key points where our team at Vias, there's a lot of experts, and these are a lot of the sort of approaches that we'll take when we're helping customers adopt 3D Experience on the cloud. The first being starting small. So many companies will start with just a specific department, say design and engineering, and then you start to expand across the organization and bring in teams as you need to. The hybrid approach, so this is if you're already using CATIA V5, you can start to integrate some of the benefits of the cloud step by step. So you keep your processes the same, everything existing, and then you start to gain some of the collaboration benefits of the cloud. And this integration with CATIA V5, in our series of webinars, this is what we're going to start to focus on, is what does that integration look like? How do you do it? And how can you take advantage of that as you start to adopt the cloud? Enhanced collaboration. So this is kind of externally with suppliers and contractors or global teams. You can, if you want to start integrating them into your workflow, you can use the platform to sort of have them access the same data, slowly start to integrate that collaboration and adopt it that way. The subscription-based model. So this is, again, related to not having that upfront IT investment. And then 3D Experience allows you to scale those resources as your business grows. And then finally is the expert support and training. And so again, Vias has a group of experts from a bunch of different industries. So Vias 3D and Dassault Systems can provide guidance on what the best practices should be, the learning for your teams to help transition smoothly, and start to see the value and utilize the platform's value. And so the next slide is sort of getting into talking a bit about what that digital transformation journey could look like. So this is a slide from Dassault, and this is often how they'll talk about that transformation. So they kind of put it into some different phases. So there's the get connected, get ready, accelerate, and then transform. Where the get connected is sort of that first get connected to the platform. Establish the collaboration, connect your teams, and just start accessing your CATIA V5 data in a more accessible, modern way. So you're not worried about local storage, and you're not worried as much about version control issues. Then the get ready is once you're connected and you've kind of seen the interface, now you want to start really integrating CATIA V5 with the platform. So start bringing lifecycle management into play, keeping content organized in that single source of truth. And then your data becomes more structured, version controlled, and accessible for everybody in the organization. In the accelerate phase, not when you get your engineering data integrated, then you want to start enhancing your capabilities. So then how do you supplement with other 3D experience roles, other CATIA 3D experience roles alongside your V5? So you're not changing your core processes, but you're expanding your collaboration, and you might even go beyond engineering. So you make the data accessible to managers, purchasing, marketing, etc. And then you might even consider going beyond just CAD, going to other capabilities, bringing in simulation, manufacturing, production planning, etc. So you kind of are really starting to see the transformation there. And then the last phase would be transform. And so this is sort of your final state, if you will, the full integration where you've brought your stakeholders, your data, your processes all together in a unified environment. Um, Everybody's working on large assemblies in a shared space. You're not worried about version mismatching or outdated files, and you're just fully leveraging the platform. You're taking advantage of the value that the cloud can provide. And so that's just kind of to keep that in mind, because that's kind of the way that you could see the journey as you start thinking about digital transformation, and recognizing that different companies may be in different phases or spots of this journey, and we can help provide guidance on where you fit in and what you can start to begin to adopt. And so what do you actually get with CATIA? With 3D experience. So with the platform, there's 12 brands. But at this stage, we really only talk about CATIA and Innovia, because these are kind of the key enablers to manage your designs efficiently and keeping your teams connected. So the first important point is, again, keeping CATIA V5. So you can keep V5, have your teams work with those familiar workflows, and then you just start to enhance the collaboration with some of the cloud-based communication tools and other sort of collaboration tools. You start with what's called PCS OC. So this is sort of those Dassault terms. As you start to adopt, you'll see things like this, which would be referred to as a trigram. This PCS is the Platform Collaboration Services on cloud capabilities. So the OC is on cloud. And this is sort of the starter package or the foundation package that allows users and engineers to log into the platform and utilize just the very basic collaboration and communication type tools and the basic data management tools. And then you can start to build on it with the Innovia portfolio, some of the governance. An example of this would be the Collaborative Designer for CATIA V5, which is a tool meant to sort of bridge the gap between CATIA V5 and some of the governance of the 3D Experience cloud platform. And then you start to expand again as you grow your business. And then the last point there is, so PCS is more than just sort of one app. It's the foundation that kind of gives a number of different capabilities available to the end users to start utilizing. So that's just sort of a preview into as you start to adopt, these are kind of the starting points of some of those license packages that you'd want to start thinking about as you move on to the cloud and transition from V5. So with that, we have a couple slides here on just sort of some use cases. So these are some publicly available Dassault Systems use cases. I won't spend too much time on these, but just kind of quickly mentioning some of them. The first one, Next Future Mobility, is this module electrical vehicle design company, where on the website they have kind of these small pods that are intended to be connected together. So you might have sort of a small 4-person EV, and then they can kind of connect up and you can get more of a bus or a sort of train looking EV. And they wanted to move to 3D Experience on the cloud to help streamline their design processes. So they wanted their engineers to work in context of the entire vehicle. And as they started to work in context, they were able to build in some simulation processes, and then they were able to streamline their design by reducing iteration. And they were able to find ways to optimize their design and improve their processes. The second one, Droneonautics. This is a cargo drone company, which was focused on sort of the same day delivery ideas. They were using CATIA within the 3D Experience platform, and they wanted to integrate all their drone components for their product and then have their data flow from design to manufacturing. So they kind of took on this modular approach of adopting the platform, where they could begin with the design and engineering, and as they grew and as they got through the product development, they could start to bring in manufacturing and have that data grow or move to flow to manufacturing. And they were able to help find areas where they could streamline their processes as they grew and integrated more operational phases and tools into their processes. Finally, atom cutting. This is an industrial equipment cutting tools and systems. They were more focused on the collaboration aspects of the cloud. So they were looking at their data silos and wanting people to have centralized data that they could access and have visibility to, particularly with remote teams and teams across the globe. So in Italy and China, they wanted them to be able to access their designs and bombs, have visibility into their manuals, spare parts, risk analysis. And through kind of opening up that collaboration, giving access and visibility to the data, they were able to find ways to, again, streamline their processes. And then they were able to find places where they could improve their technology so they could reduce the wear and tears, and then they had lower maintenance costs on their products that they were producing. So a couple just sort of public use cases there of some companies that were looking in and have adopted 3D Experience on the cloud. But that brings us to the end of this webinar. So just want to thank everybody for joining today. As mentioned off the top, this is the first of 5. So we've kind of split the webinars, as you can see, kind of into those phases that I talked about a couple of slides ago. So the next webinar is going to be talking about how do you start your 3D Experience journey with CATIA V5. And then we'll talk about the lifecycle management, bringing that into play. And then Accelerate, integrating the V5 data with the platform data and realizing and getting insights and value from that. And then the final webinar is going to be kind of that, what does it look like to have complete digital continuity, have a complete digital transformation type of thing. So, thank you for joining today. We'd love to see your name pop up in one of these other webinars. So on the screen here, you can scan this QR code. It should bring you to a place where you can register for the other webinars. Or you could just Vias 3D on any of our socials. Or I just recommend on LinkedIn, if you look up Vias 3D, you should be able to see posts and updates on these webinars to stay connected. Not sure if you want to put also a link in the chat manual if you have it ready. But with that, we'll open it up to questions. I'll leave it on this slide in case you want to scan that QR code though. But we'll open it up to questions, and thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael, for that insightful session. And let me look at the chat. And in case you haven't submit your question on the chat, we'll take a few minutes, and you can submit it right now, and we will be able to answer as many as possible. So seems like we already have a couple of questions. All right, so the first question we have right here is, how is the security compliance on the 3D Experience platform?
Yeah, thank you. How is it? So as we kind of mentioned in the webinar, just so has a lot of motivation to keep it up to date. So I think I have it. I wrote down, they have the ISO 27000 certification with the infrastructure vendors. So they have the specific certifications, and then as these certifications come up, they'll come up for review, and so they're constantly reviewing, ensuring they're up to the latest industry standards, and making the necessary adjustments if they need to. And we can always provide further details on what that security looks like if that's a concern.
All right. Thank you so much, Michael. We have another question here is, how is the type license packaged?
Yeah, thank you. So how is it packaged?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so good question. So normally it's looked at as a subscription model. So you can look at renting it, and then you can start to increase that subscription depending on how you're using it or adjust it. So you, again, the idea that we like to suggest is starting small and then building on it, so you can evaluate what parts of it are you using, where are you seeing value, and then how can we expand on that value and make the most use of that subscription. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so before we go to the next question, so I already dropped in the chat the link for all of the webinars in case you want to join. So yeah. The next question we have here is, what are the best practices for including or integrating 3D experience?
Yeah, so this is where I have a lot of my experience in sort of the learning development side of things, how end users can get onboarded onto the platform. The best practices would be, we'd want to connect you with a specific expert, somebody with experience in the industry, to learn more about that. So Dassault works in several different industries. And so normally what happens is we take a look at what's the relevant industry, and then how can we activate an environment with a similar template of roles, or something specific to that. So it kind of depends on the industry, I guess, if that helps answer it. I think that would be something that we'd want to have conversations about what you need, and then we can start to develop a plan for best practices. Hopefully that answers the question.
All right, thank you. And we have one last question here is, do I need to start with all the 3D experience roles?
Not all of them. So when we go back to actually that slide where it shows all the brands, there is a lot of roles. And so it would never be an adoption of everything. It would never be even within a single brand. So in CATIA, we wouldn't necessarily be looking at adopting or starting with all of the roles. We'd want to again talk about the small packages. What are your initial goals, and start there, and then we can kind of start to transition smoothly and expand as your processes grow, I guess.
Okay, thank you so much, Michael. Seems like those are all of the questions that we have on our Q&A section. And yeah, thank you all for joining today's webinar. Again, big thank you, Michael, for sharing your expertise with us. And thanks all of you for attending and engage with us today. So yeah, stay tuned for more webinars, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody.